Good evening. Welcome to Bklyn College. I am Joseph Giovanelli, the Vice President for Administration and Finance here at the college. Ms. Geller and Professor Aronoff are joining us tonight at the invitation of Professor David Seiderman of the college. I am sure there will be an interesting speech and that there will be a spirited discussion following the presentation. Colleges and universities play an important role in our society. They offer free access to ideas, places where people may hear and consider differing points of view. Bklyn College has a strong commitment to the open exchange of ideas. We ask that each of you be respectful to each other and respectful of everyone's rights to express their opinion, and that, that you not interrupt, and please do not speak out of order. There will be ample time allowed for questions during a question and answer period following the speaker's remarks. Please follow the instructions of the moderator during the question and answer period. Be aware that anyone engaging in disorderly conduct or disruptive behavior will be first warned and then asked to leave the room. The university may seek disciplinary or criminal sanctions against persons who engage in conduct that violates university rules or state or New York City laws. Lastly, please take a moment now to silence your cell phones and other devices. Thank you very much. Professor? Professor?
Good evening, and thanks for coming, despite the somewhat inclement weather. Thanks to Professor Seiderman for organizing the program and to Bklyn College for hosting. Our topic, as you know, is the First Amendment and social criticism, a crucial topic for a free society. Freedom of speech is a global issue. Various countries have different standards, some with minimal restraints on freedom of speech, others where speaking your mind can cost you your liberty, your health, and even your life. I'd like to read the First Amendment to set the context of tonight's talk and mention a few well-known cases or incidents that have been before the American courts with regard to freedom of speech. So the First Amendment, freedom of speech, press, religion, and petition. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. American courts have ruled that publicly burning an American flag is a legally protected form of freedom of expression, protected by the First Amendment. The American Nazi Party planned to march in Skokie, Illinois, which then had a large number of Jewish Holocaust survivors living there. The Nazis held a march in Chicago. Swastikas on display. Another case of First Amendment rights. Art that offends became an issue during the Giuliani administration when a picture of the Virgin Mary, which incorporated elephant dung, was exhibited at the Brooklyn Museum. There were heated protests, but then outcries arose for protecting freedom of expression through art. Protests were raised by those who felt the opera about the murder of Leon Klinghoffer was anti-Semitic. But the show went on at the Metropolitan Opera last year. Freedom of speech. Freedom of expression in academia, as Vice President Giovanelli mentioned, is a hot and constantly contested issue on campus and off. Professor Andrew Pessin at Connecticut College is now being strongly criticized for a phrase that appeared on his Facebook page. Columbia University invited then Iranian President Ahmadinejad to speak despite strong protest. In his introduction that evening, Columbia President Bollinger criticized Ahmadinejad as a petty, cruel dictator, a Holocaust denier, and he criticized the Iranian government for killing children. But Ahmadinejad had his freedom of speech. Israeli Ambassador Oren was shouted down at the University of California at Irvine. However, after the disruptors were apprehended, and after several intermissions and a 20-minute break, he was able to speak his piece. And on and on. Can a sponsor of a parade exclude a group that the sponsor feels undermines the message or the mood of the parade? The courts have ruled yes. A very hot issue of freedom of speech is with regard to corporations and labor unions and wealthy individuals. Do they have the right to use their money to advocate on political issues? The courts have ruled yes. Can anti-war protesters demonstrate at a soldier's funeral despite the emotional trauma to the family of the soldier? The courts have ruled yes. Outside of the United States, controversy and violence have often surrounded the issue of freedom of speech. Theo Van Gogh was murdered because of his film about women and Islam. Journalists in Russia have been murdered in unsolved crimes. Labor union organizers are terrorized in many countries. The Danish cartoonist who drew cartoons of Mohammed was threatened and attacked, but saved by the secure, armored room in his house. None of us has forgotten the murder of the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists and staff, or of the Jews in the kosher grocery store, all of which was followed by a moving mass demonstration in the streets of Paris. Advocacy for gay rights is a punishable crime in some countries. Salman Rushdie lived underground because of threats to his life when satanic verses were published. In short, defending freedom of speech is an American and a global issue where democracy and human lives are at stake. We're fortunate to have the opportunity tonight to hear from someone outside of CUNY. I yielded my time to her. And so I will turn the program over to Pamela Geller after a brief introduction. Pamela Geller is a noted figure in the arena of freedom of speech and human rights. She has declared that speech that is offensive to some must not be curtailed but must be protected in a genuinely free and pluralistic society. Ms. Geller is the founder, editor, and publisher of Atlas Shrugs. She has been published in numerous newspapers and periodicals. She has led awareness campaigns on behalf of victims of honor killings. And in 2013, she was awarded the Guardian of Freedom Award by the Nassau County Federation of Republican Women.